everyone, Jim Branscombe here for the Cinematic Void vlog. For this episode, I decided to do things a little different. I wanted to talk about some of the film books, cult film books that really got me into learning more about films and searching out films. Now, there's lots of books you can get. There's the Psychotronic guys, there's the Danny Perry books and things like that, but these are, I'd say, 3 books that had the biggest influence, impact on me on wanting to discover cult films, horror films, and Italian horror. So the first one is the Deep Red Horror Handbook. This is edited by Chaz Ballin, who did Deep Red Magazine. If you don't know who Chaz Ballin is, he was one of the great, genre horror critics out there. And he also used to sell bootleg VHS, and I got a few of those. He had a huge archive of stuff. But the first time I came across the Deep Red Horror Handbook was through Bruce Holacek, who runs Cinema Akana. I had known Bruce for, God, who knows how many years now, too many. But when I was first getting into horror stuff, Bruce actually loaned me his copy of the book, except his book was in terrible shape. He actually had it in a little plastic bag because the spine busted and it was all falling apart and all the pages were everywhere. But I would just go through that book, or what was supposed to be a book had been destroyed, but I went through this front to back, and eventually I had to get my own copy, which I'm still careful with because I can see why the thing fell apart. But it's one of the great books. And with Deep Red, with both the zine and this and some of the other books that Chaz edited, there's a thing on here that they do movie reviews, and they also do the gore score. So the Deep Red Horror Handbook was probably the most essential book. I also have copies of a couple other things. This was a Deep Red special edition, which is, I actually got this at the comic book store I used to get all my comic books at, along with this Horror Holocaust, which is another book edited by Chaz Ballin. If you can find any of Chaz's books, highly recommend it, pick them up. The next book that was, very important to me, I actually got a copy of it in college from my friend Jess Morgan, because we were studying film, and he's like, this should be right up your alley. It is Sleazoid Express by Michelle Clifford and Bill Landis. This is, I think a bunch of collected writing from all the zines that they did back in the day, plus some new stuff. It's, kind of broken down by each movie theater on 42nd Street in New York. It's a really good read, really kind of vivid, eye-opening, reviews of some of the most fucked up movies ever made that just made you want to go all right, I'm all in, need to see this movie. And for the third book I want to talk about, this was probably the most instrumental in getting me into Italian horror, or basically seeking out more Italian horror, which is this book called Spaghetti Nightmares. It's basically a book with tons of interviews with Italian filmmakers, actors, special effects artists, producers. It is top tier stuff. It gives you real insight to the mindset of how most of these filmmakers decide to tackle the horror and exploitation genre. And there's also a ton of shit talk. Let me tell you something, when you get to that Lucio Fulci chapter, geez, he hates everyone. But it's also kind of funny because as he's talking shit about Dario Argento and his contemporaries, he's also name dropping famous genre filmmakers that he's friends with. He's like, my friend David Cronenberg and stuff like that. This is a great, insightful, also very hilarious read. So yeah, these are 3 cult film essential books. I guess there's more than 3, but I'm kind of lumping all the Deep Red stuff together. So why don't you tell me, what cult film books were you reading growing up that made you want to search out more movies? Sound off in the comments or hit us up on social media. Until next time, see you in the void.